World number 10? Dethroned. Semifinal? Secured. Alex Eala just keeps crushing every obstacle in her path. But here's the shocking part. Svitolina's warning should have been a red flag for everyone else. On paper, this was supposed to be the Ukrainian veteran's revenge. On a new surface, in a new city, she was confident she could flip the script. Instead, she became the third champion to fall in Eala's historic Washington run. The quarterfinal was never in doubt, 6-4, 6-2, a statement that the Filipina superstar is playing at a level nobody saw coming. Is Alex Eala now the player nobody wants to face? She had been beaten before, and she was determined not to let it happen again. When Elina Svitolina stepped off the court after her gritty second-round victory over Polina Kudermetova, the Ukrainian veteran knew exactly what awaited her. Standing between her and a semifinal berth was the same player who had dismantled her on the grass of Berlin just weeks earlier. But this time, Svitolina was confident things would be different. It was not an easy battle for me, Svitolina admitted, reflecting on her 6-4, 6-3 defeat to Eala on grass. Tomorrow is a new surface, new country, a new city, so it's a new challenge. Those words were carefully chosen. They were a warning, not just to the tennis world, but to Eala herself. Svitolina was reminding everyone that her loss in Berlin was on grass, a surface that favored the Filipinas' aggressive game. Washington was different. Hard courts were different. And Svitolina, the world number 10 with 20 WTA titles to her name, had plenty of experience adapting to new conditions. I was trying to be locked in. First match, hard courts, everything is new, Svitolina said after her victory over Kudermetova, a 7-6-4, 6-4 win that took just over an hour and a half. I was eager to get back on track. I'm happy that I could handle the first set, get back as quick as I can, and find opportunity to win. But here's the part of this story that Svitolina couldn't control. Eala had already beaten her, and she knew exactly how she did it. The Berlin Open quarterfinal had been a masterclass. Eala came out firing against the more experienced Ukrainian, racing to a 4-1 lead in the first set and taking control of the match, which lasted just 1 hour and 23 minutes. In the second set, she broke Svitolina 3 times for a 5-2 lead before the Ukrainian won back-to-back games to pull within 1. But Eala showed composure and closed out the match on serve. The numbers from that match told a story of dominance. Eala finished with 19 winners and just 9 unforced errors, controlling the match from start to finish. She broke Svitolina's serve 5 times and never let the Ukrainian find her rhythm. I think it's just part of my character, Eala had said after her victory over Fernandez, when asked about her fighting spirit. But then again, every single player here is a fighter. All of us here are fighters. Whether it's my opponent today, yesterday, tomorrow, you can never count anybody out. Those words were about to be put to the test against a player who had vengeance on her mind. Svitolina had made it clear that she was treating this as a fresh start. When you have a break, when you have not played competitively for a bit, it's not easy, she said, acknowledging the challenges of returning to competition. But the 32-year-old veteran had been one of the most consistent performers on the WTA Tour for years. She had won the Italian Open in Rome just 2 months earlier, marking her biggest tournament victory since 2018. She knew how to win. She knew how to grind out victories. And after her grueling battle against Kudermetova, she was battle-tested and ready. But Eala had already proven she could beat her. And the question that lingered in the air was simple. Could she do it again on hard courts? Svitolina was confident she could flip the script. I'm going to draw some confidence from today's match and carry it into tomorrow, she said. But confidence alone wouldn't be enough, because the player waiting for her on the other side of the net was on the run of her life. What would you do if the person standing across from you had already proven she could beat you? For Elina Svitolina, the answer was to treat it as a new challenge. For Alex Eala, the answer was to do what she always does, fight. The quarterfinal showdown had arrived, and from the very first point, it was clear that Elina Svitolina's warning had fallen on deaf ears. Because Alex Eala wasn't listening to warnings. She was too busy making history. The match began at 6:30 a.m. Philippine time on July 31, 2026, under the lights of Rock Creek Park. The crowd, packed with Filipino supporters waving Philippine flags, was electric. They had come to witness history, and they were about to get exactly what they came for. Eala came out firing, just as she had in Berlin. The Filipina superstar broke Svitolina's serve early and never looked back. Her ground strokes were finding their mark. Her movement was crisp. The world number 10, who had been so confident about the new surface, new country, new city, had no answers. The first set was a statement, 6-4, and it felt even more dominant than the scoreline suggested. Svitolina, the Ukrainian veteran who had won 20 titles and reached the semifinals of 3 Grand Slams, was being completely outplayed. The second set was more of the same. Eala's intensity never dropped. Her focus never wavered. The woman who had fought back from 1-5 against Eala Fernandez just days earlier was now in complete control. She broke Svitolina's serve twice more and closed out the match in just 1 hour and 28 minutes. The final score read 6-4, 6-2. Another champion had fallen. Another statement had been made. The victory extended Eala's extraordinary run at the DC Open. She had now defeated Zheng Qinwen, the 2024 Paris Olympics gold medalist, Eala Fernandez, the defending champion, and Elina Svitolina, the world number 10 and second seed. 3 consecutive victories over players who had won Grand Slams, Olympic gold, and multiple WTA titles. The numbers told the story of her dominance. Against Svitolina, Eala had now won both of their meetings. The first had come at the Berlin Open in June, where she dismantled the world no. 8 in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4, in a match that lasted just 1 hour and 23 minutes. That victory marked her 9th win in her last 10 grass court matches, and her 2nd straight triumph over a top 10 player. "I think I'm getting better," Eala had said after that victory. Being exposed to this kind of level more often really pushes you to your limits and forces you to showcase what you got. Now, on the hard courts of Washington, she had proven that improvement wasn't limited to grass. The victory over Svitolina was her 2nd top 10 win in as many tournaments, cementing her status as one of the most dangerous players on tour. But it was the post-match moment that truly captured the significance of this victory. Eala shared an emotional embrace with her coaching team, her face a mixture of exhaustion and elation. Joan Bosch, her coach from the Rafa Nadal Academy, had been with her through every step of this journey. And now, they were just 1 win away from the biggest moment of her career. "I think it's just part of my character," Eala had said after her victory over Fernandez when asked about her fighting spirit. "But then again, every single player here is a fighter. Whether it's my opponent today, yesterday, tomorrow, you can never count anybody out." Those words had been proven true, again and again and again. What would you do if you were down 1-5 and everything seemed to be slipping away? For Alex Eala, the answer was simple: stay patient, stay composed, and trust that the fight would find its way back. The quarterfinal victory over Svitolina wasn't just about revenge. It was about rewriting the financial and ranking history of Philippine tennis. And the numbers are absolutely staggering. For advancing to the semifinals of the Mubadala DC Open, Eala has already secured $90,900 in prize money. That's a massive leap from the $47,750 she earned for reaching the quarterfinals, and it brings her tournament total to a life-changing sum. A victory in the semifinals would add another $155,000, bringing her total to $245,900. And if she wins it all, the champion takes home a staggering $252,000. But the prize money tells only half the story. The ranking implications of this victory are even more significant. A semifinal finish at a WTA 500 event adds 195 ranking points to Eala's tally. Just weeks ago, she was ranked world number 28 with 1,666 points. The gap from number 28 to number 24 is just 163 points. A single deep run in Washington has already eclipsed the 70 points she earned during her entire North American campaign last year. Eala's historic run at the DC Open is already rewriting the record books. She has now achieved something truly remarkable: victories over all 3 medalists from the 2024 Paris Olympics. Gold medalist Zheng Qinwen fell in the first round. Silver medalist Alex Eala had already been defeated earlier this year. and bronze medalist Eala Swiatek was stunned at Wimbledon. It's a feat that cements her place among the sport's elite. The quarterfinal victory over Svitolina was her second top 10 win in as many tournaments. At the Berlin Open just 5 weeks earlier, Eala had dismantled the world number 8 in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4. Now, on the hard courts of Washington, she had done it again, beating the world no. 10 and second seed in a statement victory that left no doubt about her growing stature. "I think I'm getting better," Eala had said after her victory in Berlin. Being exposed to this kind of level more often really pushes you to your limits and forces you to showcase what you got. Now, she had proven that improvement wasn't limited to grass. The victory over Svitolina was also a testament to Eala's mental fortitude. She had faced a player who was determined to flip the script, who had warned the tennis world that tomorrow is a new surface, new country, new city. But Eala had refused to let that warning affect her. She had stayed composed, stayed patient, and stayed in control. The numbers behind the victory tell the story of her dominance. Eala committed just 19 unforced errors in her match against Fernandez, while forcing the Canadian into 46. Against Svitolina, she continued that trend, controlling the match from start to finish and never allowing the Ukrainian to find her rhythm. "I think it's just part of my character," Eala had said after her victory over Fernandez when asked about her fighting spirit. "But then again, every single player here is a fighter. Whether it's my opponent today, yesterday, tomorrow, you can never count anybody out." Those words had been proven true. Again, and again, and again. What would you do if you were just one win away from the biggest moment of your career? For Alexis, the answer was simple. Stay patient, stay composed, and trust that the fight would find its way back. The world number 10 had fallen. The quarterfinal was secured. But for Alex Eala, the journey was far from over. Standing between her and a place in tennis history was one more match, one more victory, one more statement. The semifinals of the Mubadala DC Open now await the Filipino superstar, and the stakes could not be higher. If she wins her next match, Eala will earn a spot in the final of a WTA 500 tournament, something no Filipino singles player has ever achieved. The dream of cracking the world's top 20 is no longer a distant fantasy. It's within striking distance. The math is simple, and the opportunity is extraordinary. Eala entered the DC Open ranked world number 28 with 1,666 points. The gap from number 28 to number 24 is just 163 points. A semifinal finish at a WTA 500 event adds 195 ranking points. That means Eala is now on the verge of vaulting past players like Emma Navarro, Barbora Krejcikova, and Anastasia Potapova. One more win, and she could crack the top 25 for the first time in her career. A championship victory would be even more transformative, adding a massive 500 ranking points and pushing her toward the top 20. But standing in her way is a player she has never faced, or a familiar rival. The semifinal will pit Eala against either Elisabetta Cocchiaretto of Italy or number 3 seed Naomi Osaka of Japan. Both present unique challenges. Osaka, the 4-time Grand Slam champion and former world number 1, would be a statement opponent for Eala. She's been watching Eala's rise closely, recently saying, "I think she's incredible. I think she's a star." Elina Svitolina had been confident. The world no. 10 had warned everyone that the hard courts of Washington were a new challenge. But on July 31, 2026, at 6:30 a.m. Philippine time, that challenge became a nightmare. 3 champions, 3 statements, 1 unforgettable run. The final score reads 6-4, 6-2, but the numbers only tell half the story. What happened on the court at Rock Creek Park was a masterclass in controlled aggression, in patience, in the kind of mental fortitude that separates the good from the great. Eala came out firing from the very first point. Her ground strokes were finding their mark. Her movement was crisp. The Ukrainian veteran, who had won 20 WTA titles and reached the semifinals of 3 Grand Slams, had no answers. The first set was a statement, 6-4, and it felt even more dominant than the scoreline suggested. The second set was more of the same. Eala broke Svitolina's serve twice more and closed out the match in just 1 hour and 28 minutes. The woman who had fought back from 1-5 against Leylah Fernandez just days earlier was now in complete control from start to finish. This wasn't a comeback. This was domination. "I think it's just part of my character," Eala had said after her victory over Fernandez. "But then again, every single player here is a fighter. Whether it's my opponent today, yesterday, tomorrow, you can never count anybody out." She had just proven those words true. Again, and again, and again. The victory over Svitolina was more than just another win. It was validation. Eala had now defeated 3 champions in a single tournament. Jung Chinwen, the Olympic gold medalist, had fallen in the first round in a gritty 3-set comeback. Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion, had been dethroned in a dramatic 6-2, 7-6-1 victory that saw Eala fight back from a 1-5 deficit in the second set. And now, Elina Svitolina, the world no. 10 and second seed, had been dismantled in straight sets. The hat trick was complete. And the tennis world was taking notice. The victory also marked Eala's second top 10 win in as many tournaments. Just weeks earlier at the Berlin Open, she had dismantled the same opponent in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4. That match had lasted just 1 hour and 23 minutes. In Washington, the result was just as decisive. She played really well. She played a good grass court season, Svitolina had said before the match, acknowledging Eala's talent. But tomorrow is a new surface, new country, new city. So it's a new challenge. The challenge had been met, and it had been crushed. Now, Eala stands on the brink of history. The semifinals of the Mubadala DC Open await. Standing between her and the final is either Elisabetta Cocchiaretto of Italy or world number 13 Naomi Osaka of Japan. Either opponent would be formidable. Cocchiaretto shocked second seed Emma Navarro in 3 sets. Osaka, the 4-time Grand Slam champion, has been watching Eala's rise closely and recently said, "I think she's incredible. I think she's a star, and it's really cool to have someone like her that people can look up to." An all-Asian semifinal between Eala and Osaka would be historic. It would be the first time 2 of Asia's finest meet in the professional circuit. The crowd, already electric with Filipino energy, would reach a fever pitch. The tennis world would be watching. But Eala isn't looking past anyone. "Then again, every single player here is a fighter," she said. "We're here because we're fighters, so you cannot count anybody out." The financial rewards of this run are already substantial. For advancing to the semifinals, Eala has secured a minimum of $9,900 in prize money. A victory in the semifinals would add another $155,000, bring her total to $245,900. A championship victory would take home the full $252,000. In 2026 alone, she has emerged as the Philippines' highest-earning netter of all time. But for Eala, the money and rankings have never been the point. "I do think that representation is a very powerful thing," she has said. "It's very impactful when someone sees themselves in you." In Washington, that representation has been on full display. The Philippine flags that filled every section. The chants that echoed across Rock Creek Park. The emotion that filled the air every time Eala stepped onto the court. Tournament chairman Mark Ine revealed that over 80% of ticket inquiries were about when Eala was playing. Now, the semifinals await. And the tennis world will be watching. What would you do if everything you'd ever worked for was finally within reach? For Alex Eala, the answer is simple. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Keep proving that the girl with ruffled socks and light-up shoes can conquer the world. Because she's just getting started.